I kind, or I'm still.
I know.
This is an audio check for the live stream. Jody, is it coming through on the live? Whoop, is it coming through on the live stream? I guess you won't be able to answer me, so we'll
That's Jody.
hear when I come back. What?
That's Jody. It's Jody Bosworth. Testing. Mark Boucher is the best library director.
Good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on Monday, December 4th, 2023, and we'll call this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order here in the LSSU Library. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Gary,
Here.
Commissioner Bauer,
Here.
Commissioner Bospis,
Here.
Here.
Commissioner Habusta,
Here.
Commissioner Marble, Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
We are all here and accounted for. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We've located a flag at the end. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's nice to see a good-sized audience for our meeting. Move on into mayor comments. Just have a couple comments tonight. I saw Stephanie in the audience somewhere. Where are you? We had a excellent parade of lights on Friday, November 24th. It was a chilly night, but we had a great turnout and a lot of excited kids. So thanks to Stephanie Sprecher of the DDA, also to Parker Ace Hardware for their sponsorship of the event. Also want to give a thank you from the City Commission to the City of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. We had a holiday celebration on November 29th last week. It was an excellent event and really good to be able to get back with our Canadian counterparts and strengthen that relationship again. We've had a few meetings with them already, 2023, so we're excited to move forward with some collaborations. And certainly we thank Interim President Dr. Lynn Gillette and the LSSU community for the invite here this evening and all of your work in getting ready to host this evening's meeting. As we all know, LSSU is critically important to our region. Not only provides the enrichment of the community through education, arts, and athletics, but it's also an economic driver that provides employment, research and development, purchases, and many collaborations, one of which we will be talking about a little later this evening on the agenda with Marilyn. Strong Lake State certainly is a priority for our community and for this City Commission, and we look forward to hearing from Dr. Gillette later in the agenda, so thank you very much. We will move on into item B, which is proclamations and recognitions. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for the commission is recognition of Captain Nick Vaught for his completion of Eastern Michigan School Fire Staff and Command School. To give the recognition is Fire Chief Ed Miller.
Good evening.
Wrong button. Good evening, mayors, commissioners. I always love to come and talk about the fire department and all the good things we're doing, and they make my job really easy. Tonight we're here to recognize Captain Vaught for a challenge he took on about a year ago. Part of that is Eastern Michigan University's Staff and Command School, which is an executive level training program that is 10 months long. 360 hours of contact hours of classroom time and a bunch of homework. It is a graduate level program that led Captain Vaught to work on research budgets, data analysis, everything that built on his previous education, and he did a phenomenal job. He was one of 40 people that were selected for the program throughout the state of Michigan and the Midwest, and the first Upper Peninsula attendee of this program. What makes it difficult, though, is it was in southeastern Michigan. It's sponsored by Eastern Michigan University, so that took a lot of time away from his family and friends, and we appreciate the commitment that he had to it and his dedication to it. Part of his research is being implemented within the fire department already with personnel appraisals. I almost forgot the name of that. He did a great research project on that, and he had to present it to his peers and also members of the board of directors or advisory board of the program. So very proud of him with that. And it's fitting that we do it tonight. here in this location because Captain Vaught is also on the staff or faculty of Lake State. And just to tie things together with the fire department and Lake State, 14 of our 19 employees graduated from Lake State. That's impressive. Lake State is one of only a handful of universities that has a 4-year program in fire science and EMS. So it's amazing to think about. We have this right in our neighborhood, but where I came from, I didn't hear about it. And I praise it all the time to get people to look at this facility as an option for their schooling after high school. It's a great place. Another side note to that is a handful of the people that graduated from the fire science and EMS program didn't come here for those programs. They came here for fishery management or something else, and then they found this program and decided that that was what was for them. So for Lake State, we hope you continue with these programs and really push them because they're a great need in the state right now and in the country because firefighters and paramedics are in need. But for this program, 360 hours, that doesn't even sound like a lot until you're sitting in those seats. This puts them into a position to have a master's degree within 5 more classes. So we're really proud of them with that, and this is something that we're going to encourage our staff to continue on in the future because my job is not just being the fire chief, it's a sustainability plan. How are we going to keep this high level of education within our department? And this program helps us do that. So we look forward to it. I wanted to recognize him because it's a lot of hard work and congratulate him for his efforts. Thank you. You want to say something? Did you say something?
Thank you, Captain Vaught and Chief Miller. Certainly a testament to the professionalism of our department, and sounds like Chief would like to do a little recruiting for Lake State in the future, so excellent job. We'll move on into item C, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on any of our agenda items this evening? So anybody that would like to make any comments on a regular agenda item? No takers? Seeing none, we will move on into D, the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Robin Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of November 20th, 2023. Item 2, acceptance of the Sault Ste. Marie Housing Commission meeting minutes of October 19th, 2023. Item 3 is resignation of Abby Moran from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board effective November 27th, 2023. Item 4, appointment of Tammy Bumpstead to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a partial term set to expire June 1, 2025. Item 5 is from the DDA on behalf of the Outhouse Consortium, authorization to sell liquor on city-owned property for the downtown New Year's Eve celebration. Item 6 is consideration for the Economic Development Corporation to apply for Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development grant. And item 7 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Manager. Is there any commissioner that would like any of those removed for individual consideration, or do you have any questions on any of the items? And I'm having a hard time seeing Commissioner Busta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regard to item number 5 on the consent agenda, has legal and the Liquor Commission reviewed this plan for its viability?
City Manager.
This isn't something we typically send to the attorneys for review. This process takes it from the city to the Liquor Control Commission, so it's more of just a local check, correct? Yeah, it's more of a local check that the commission, the governing body, is in concurrence with the activities.
Just a follow-up question then, so the Liquor Commission has given approval then for this to happen?
Liquor Control Commission will give approval after the governing body, after the commission.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Anybody else have any item they want explained further? Mayor Pro Tem Bauer.
So moved, we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the consent agenda. Any last-minute questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We will move on into item E on our agenda, special orders of business. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission review and information is the annual audit report. Tonight we have finance staff Kristen Collins and Callie Perrin, as well as, Christina from Roseland Prestige. They'll go over the audit. You have a copy of the audit with you tonight. Christina will kind of walk us through it. She'll be here to answer any questions. You can feel free to ask them as we go through it. But without further ado, turn it over to Christina. If you guys, Kristen, you want to come up to the table too, or just in case there's any other questions?
Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here to talk about the audit report. What I brought with me are a couple of different items. This larger package is the full audit report. There's just a ton of information in there. What I also brought with me is our board packet. These are selected pages out of the full audit report. We do that so that it will help us to focus on some of the key areas that we want to talk with you tonight about. Also, this allows us to add some notes and some highlighting to focus on some of the key areas. If you have any questions as we go through the information, either from the board packet that I brought with me or out of the full report, just let me know. So in the board packet, if you'll turn in the first page, these first 3 pages are the independent auditor's report. For the financial audit, this is the first of 2 letters that we've included with the city's reported numbers. This is where we include our opinion as a result of the audit of the city and the component units for June 30, 2023. And there are various portions of this letter. The first one is the most important. That's where we include our opinion based on our audit. And I did put a box around the information or the paragraph I'd like you to take a look at here. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly. That's considered an unmodified opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give, so that's the type of wording that you do want to have in your opinion letter. And the rest of this letter has other categories which talk about the basis for our opinion, management's responsibility for the financial statements, the auditor's responsibility for the audit. Also, it talks about required supplementary information and other information that's included in the report. And on the 3rd page of that letter, you'll see another category called Other Reporting Required by Government Auditing Standards. That is a 3rd letter that we do provide. That is actually included in the single audit report, which is issued under a separate cover. That is a federal award audit, and that letter is required to be in there. So, if you turn to the next page, this is these next 2 pages are pages 1 and 2 out of the financial statements. And I want to, we talked about how to present this information to the commission tonight. And pages 1 and 2 are a very high-level summary overview of the activities of not only the city, which is called the primary government, but also the component units, which are also included on this page here. I've packed this full with a bunch of notes and some highlighting as well. Page 1 is the statement of net position. We provide this information in a column format. The first column you see there is for governmental activities. This column accounts for governmental funds, of which there are 15 for the city. It also includes information on the internal service funds. There are 3 for the city. You'll find some more detail on those items on pages 3 and 5 of the report, as well as pages 7 and 8 of the report. And I have some of that information included in this packet as well. The next column is the business type activities. This column accounts for the enterprise funds of the city. There are 5 in total. You'll see more detail about those enterprise funds on pages 7 and 8. And the last column is for the component units. There are 5 component units for the city, and you'll see more detail on each of those component units in pages 12 and 13 of the report. Okay? This statement of net position is a fancy way of saying a balance sheet for a governmental entity. This page will list the assets first, items owned by the city. Below that are deferred outflows. Below that are liabilities or items that are owed to others. Below that are deferred inflows. And then at the bottom, you'll see that the result of all of those categories is net position as of the end of the year. So I also tried to provide some information on those different categories. You'll see at the top under assets, I have a box around cash and cash equivalents and investments, and I put a note next to that, note 2. If you're curious, note 2 in the notes to the financial statements will provide some additional information on all of that cash equivalents, and investments information that you see here on page 1. Below that, accounts receivable. You'll see more information or more detail on what makes up the total in note 3 to the notes and further down the line. Okay. For the governmental activities for the year, total net position at the end of the year was $48 million. For business type activities, total ending net position was $47 million. And for the component units, total net position ended the year at $1.6 million. Okay. The next page, page 2, again, this is a very high-level summary information page. These 2 pages, 1 and 2, are also on a full accrual basis. That's a long-term basis. That means all of the long-term debt, capital assets, and long-term activity is included in these 2 pages. Page 2 is called a statement of activities. It's laid out a bit differently than what you would typically see an income statement, but I did put a box around the most important line on this page toward the bottom, the change in net position. So as a result of the activities for the year, the governmental activities added to the bottom line by $8 million. The business type activities also added to the bottom line, $4.6 million. And component units also added to the bottom line, $35,000. Okay. The next page is page 3 out of the financial statements. Here's where we start getting into some of that detail that you saw that was summarized on page 1. This is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. This is on a modified accrual basis. Governmental funds are presented on a shorter term basis. That means you stop at year end and only look out an additional 60 days. It does not include long-term activities such as your capital assets and long-term debt that's related to these funds. These pages, pages 3 and 5, list the information on a major fund basis. You'll see on this page that there are 5 major funds. And then next to the major funds is one column called non-major governmental funds. That encompasses 10 other funds of the city that did not meet the criteria of being considered a major fund. Those are all compressed together and included in the non-major fund. And I've included a box up there. If you want detail on the non-major funds, that is also included in the report on page 60 toward the back. Again, this is a balance sheet for the governmental funds. We list the assets first, liabilities, deferred inflows, and then the difference between those components brings us down to fund balance. So for the governmental fund, which is always a major fund, fund balance as of the end of the year was $5 million. Okay. The next page is page 5. It's called the Statement of Revenues, Expenditures, and Changes in Fund Balance for governmental funds. Again, list all of the major funds. There are 5 same major funds listed there. The remaining 10 governmental funds that are non-major are listed in one column. On this page, we list the revenues first. Those are resources coming in to fund operations. Expenditures are listed after that. Those are the amounts that were expended for operations. We've got another category called other financing sources and uses. That's where we record proceeds from the issuance of debt, sale of capital assets, and then the transfers between all of those funds. I put a box around the fourth line from the bottom, net change and fund balance. So for the general fund, for operations for the year, they added $956,000 to fund balance for the year. The next page, we wanted to include this. This is actually page 4. What we do with those governmental funds, which again are on a short-term basis, is that we take that information and we add to it all of the long-term reconciling items. And that's what page 4 does. It takes the information on page 3, adds long-term information to it, and rolls that up to page 1. And I wanted to give you an idea of what some of those long-term items were. The first item there is capital assets. That's one thing that's added to the governmental funds. The next item is the statement of activities, revenues, and that are recorded for special assessments. The next item is the internal service funds that we spoke of. Then there's the bonds, and then there's some other long-term activity which relates mostly to compensated absences and net pension liability. The next page is page 7. This is the statement of net position for the proprietary funds. These are the enterprise funds as well as the internal service funds. These funds are always recorded on a full accrual basis that includes all of the long-term assets, liabilities, and long-term activities. This statement of net position is like the balance sheet. So we list the assets, deferred outflows, liabilities, deferred inflows, and we come down to net position at the bottom. This page also is on a major fund basis. So for the city of Sault Ste. Marie, there are 2 major enterprise funds, the Water and Sewer Fund and the Parking Deck Fund. And then next to that, you'll see non-major fund category. There are 3 other funds that did not meet the criteria to be considered major fund for the enterprise funds, and those are combined together and called non-major funds. You'll see more detail on the non-major funds in page 62 of the report. Okay. The total enterprise fund column that you see that's got a large block around it, that is what's carried forward to page 1 in the business type activities. And then the column to the far right is the internal service fund. There are actually 3 that are wrapped up into that column, and you'll see the detail of those 3 on page 65. Okay. The next page is a statement of revenues, expenses, changes in net position, or the income statement for the enterprise funds and the internal service funds. Again, we list revenues first. That's money coming in to fund operations. Expenses after that, transfers in and out. And toward the bottom is the change in net position. So for the total enterprise funds for the activity for the year, that brought in a positive $4.6 million, which is what we saw on page 2 as well. And for the internal service funds based on operations, that was a positive $621,000 that was added to the bottom line for the year. All right. The next page we wanted to provide you was the fiduciary funds. These are funds that are held in a fiduciary capacity by the city. There are 3 different funds here: Fire and Police Pension Trust Fund, OPEB Defined Contribution Trust Fund, as well as the Tax Collection Fund. Again, these are held by the city in a fiduciary capacity. And the next page, page 11, is the statement of changes in the fiduciary net position. Wanted to show you the ins and outs of those funds as well. Next page is 30 out of the notes. Wanted to highlight note 7 is capital assets. We provide this information each year. We do that for governmental activities. That's the first table. The next table on the next page is the business type activities. We have to split that information out. In these tables, we always start with the beginning balance. That's last year's ending balance. We show you what the increases were, purchases, construction, what the decreases were, disposals of assets, and then another column for transfers, what was transferred out of construction and process and actually put into use or service and put into another category. And then we come to the ending balance. That ending balance information you can tie directly to page 1. Okay. So we're going to go a couple more pages into page 49 of the notes. I've highlighted there. Note 20 is a prior period adjustment. This is an additional disclosure when we have an adjustment to the prior period. So I wanted to point that out to you. We had some assets that we had to reclassify, take off the books, double counted. So I wanted to point that out to you real quick. The next page, page 50, we like to give board members an understanding of some of the new pronouncements that are coming that may have an impact on the financial statements, and that's what we do in this note. GASB statement number 100, which is an accounting changes and errors corrections, that will be effective for the city's 2024 year. And then GASB statement number 101 for compensated absences will be effective for the city's 2025 year. The city does already account for compensated absences, but this GASB will change what goes into that computation. The next 2 pages, we wanted to provide you some additional information on the defined benefit pension plans for the city. These are required supplementary information. So on page 56, you see I've put a box on the column that's labeled 2022. The reason that's labeled 2022 is that this information is on a plan year end. The plan actually ends, has a fiscal year end of December, so that's why it says 2022 here. But on this page, the first category is the total pension liability. The next category is the plan fiduciary net position. Those are the assets that are held to pay off that total liability. And then toward the middle of the page, I did put a box around the net pension liability. And if you go all the way over to the right, the net pension liability, which is the total pension liability netted with those assets, is a liability of $15 million for the city as of December 31st, 2022. And you'll see, based on this page, how that liability has been growing or coming down over the years. This is the MERS plan. The next page is that same information for the fire and police plan. Again, the far right column is for fiscal year plan ending 2022, and I've put a box around the net pension liability. That's the total pension liability combined with the assets that are put aside to pay that. And as of June 30, 2022, that liability was $17 million. Okay. The next couple of pages are the communication with those charged with governance at the conclusion of the audit. We, as auditors, are required to communicate with those charged with governance, which are the commission members, information at the planning stage of our audit as well as at the conclusion of our audit. This is that letter. We typically include that with the report to ensure that board members are receiving those. And that's all I wanted to cover with you this evening. Again, very high-level overview of the report. Does anybody have any questions on the information?
Any questions for Christina?
It's a lot of detail, I know, a lot of information.
Thanks, Christina.
If you have any questions as you go through it, please feel free to call our office.
I think city manager has a few comments.
Just real quick before we move on to the commission questions, if there are any, I just want to thank the staff for taking the time and effort to put together the audit, especially Director Collins and Assistant Director Perrin. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of work to get the audit done on time and to the commission. It starts back in July-ish, somewhere around there. So I mean, it's a long process, and certainly without the dedication of those two, we wouldn't be able to get it done. So I want to thank them both.
Thank you.
Thank you, city manager. Any questions or comments from the commission? Looking down the long table. Commissioner Bauer.
My question is, if you were to grade the city of Sault Ste. Marie on our financial position, as you would a grade on a report card, which is appropriate where we are right now, but A, B, C, D, what grade would you give us on our financial position at this moment?
Can I elaborate on that? Not only
I
on
wish you
your
would.
financial position, but your financial staff. I would give an A+ to your financial staff. They are one of the highest caliber of staff that we work with, and we appreciate that very much. On the financial position, I do want to show you that on the page 3, we like to provide an analysis of the general fund. A lot of people are interested on the remaining fund balance in the general fund and how that compares to annual expenditures of the general fund. So the unassigned fund balance as of year end in the general fund is 4.9 million. If we compare that to annual expenditures in the general fund, which are 12.6 million, that's 39%. And what that means is you have 39% of annual expenditures sitting in your fund balance as of year end that's available to pay for upcoming requirements of ongoing operations. That means if you had no more resources coming in, you would have about 4.5 months worth of resources to pay for expenses. That's a very healthy fund balance, and I'd like to commend the commission for that fund balance.
Excellent news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions or comments? I have a couple questions, or comments, I guess. I'd like to reiterate what City Manager said. Certainly, thank you to Kristen Collins, Finance Director, Treasurer, and Callie Perrin, Accountant and Assistant Treasurer. Great job. We appreciate your words to Christina and letting us know we know the quality of our personnel, but certainly is nice to hear it from outside. We'd like to thank you. We did form an audit committee. This is only your second year with City of Sault Ste. Marie. We formed an audit committee, and it's probably the first year of that. And thank you to Commissioners Bauer and Rubenstein for serving on that. And that is a little bit extra work for you, and we appreciate your kindergarten steps with us and dumbing it down, and we appreciate the report that you did with the extra graphics in it and everything else to guide us along. It was good to get the audit in advance, and we were able to share it with the rest of the commission so that we could have a better view. Sometimes it's kind of a shock to get it on Thursday and to try to read through a pretty big pack. So we appreciate that. So thank you, Christina and Derek. And thank you very much to our Finance Director, Assistant Finance Director. Great job.
Thanks, and you're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
So we will be looking for a motion to accept the audited financial statements of the City of Sault Ste. Marie for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023, as presented by RP&C, Rosalind Prestage and Company, PC. Commissioner Boss-Basrath.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to accept the audited financial statements of the City of Sault Ste. Marie for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, as presented by Rosalind Prestige and Company, PC.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Moving along into item F, communications, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission information is an update from Dr. Gillette, as well as new athletic director, Tori Lindley. You guys want to come on up, take your seats at the hot desk, and let us know what's going on.
Welcome to our venue.
So, Mayor Gary, City Commissioners, I would like to welcome you to Lake Superior State University. It's a pleasure to host you. I love everything about the symbolism of you having the meeting here and the university and the city working together, because it's so important for us. I want to thank you for giving me a chance to give you an update. I've got about 100 pages here I'm going to go through, but I have a pretty thorough update, but I talk fast. But before I start, I want to recognize Tim LaKinda, the chairman of our Board of Trustees. I also want to recognize Scott Smith, Vice President for Advancement. I want to recognize Mark Boucher and his staff for making all of this happen. Mark is fantastic, and as you can tell, he gets quite excited when he's recognized. And then I want to recognize one of the best employees and people I've ever had a chance to work with in my entire life, Sasha Toops. Sasha was the administrative assistant for me when I was provost, and I now still work with her a great deal. and she's everywhere. I'm convinced Sasha and Kurt actually do not have a home, but they've never fully revealed that. All right, let me start by saying this. It is easy at a university that has a whole lot going on to share a lot of different details about a place, but to never really have a narrative about who the university is and who we are. So for good, bad, or indifferent, and some of y'all have heard this, I gave a lot of thought over the last few months as to who we are. And here's who I think Lake Superior State University is. We have a laser beam focus on preparing our students for jobs in their field and for preparing them to be leaders in their field. I've worked at all kinds of universities, a lot of universities, and I'm not saying anything wrong with it. A lot of universities have a major focus on research, et cetera. We do research, but student learning is our major focus, and preparing students for their first job and then to be leaders in their field once they get the job. All kinds of research shows exactly what we know about student learning in college. The most important external factor, so I'm not talking about the student or the family, the most important external factor in student learning and persistence and graduation is interaction of faculty and students. We leverage our smaller classes, we leverage our small student to faculty ratio to maximize the interaction with faculty and students. That is who we are. We also focus on what's called applied learning. Instead of theoretical learning that is then given back in multiple choice tests in a great big classroom, we focus on applied learning where students are applying what they know to solve real world problems. Now that could occur in engineering, when senior students work as teams with an external client that's provided funding, and the students have to produce something that is good enough for that client. That also is met in Seafree with students in fisheries and wildlife that are going into all the waters around here and taking samples to see what is happening with fish populations, the cleanliness of the Great Lakes, et cetera. So our students are working on real world problems. Next, who are we? About 65% first generation college students, about 50% lower income, and 80% of incoming students coming in needing developmental math. Now next, and the best thing I'm going to tell you all day, we survey and capture each semester for as long as I've been here, which is going on 6 years. We capture placement rates of our graduates as far as jobs in their field, and then whether they went to med school, law school, graduate school, and in almost every area, every semester, our placement rates are about 100%. It is absolutely incredible, whether it is nursing, that the man knows a lot about, or engineering, or whatever the case may be. So we work with our students to prepare them to get quality jobs and to be great in their field. Next, who are we? Well, according to U.S. News and World Report, we're the #1 top public college in the Midwest for 2 years in a row. The Midwest includes 13 states, top public college. Next, who are we? #1 best college for veterans in the Midwest. That's U.S. News and World Report as well. Washington Monthly, we're the #1 best bang for the buck in the state of Michigan. So when you look at things like our placement rates, graduation rates, retention rates, low indebtedness of students when they graduate, we're the best bang for the buck in the state of Michigan, and we're proud of it. Now we'll go a little bit faster. Scott Smith is the best person I've ever worked with by far at any place in fundraising. He paid me a lot of money to say that, by the way. All right. Over the last 2 years, our fundraising is up 43%. I spend an incredible amount of my time working with Scott and others related to what are we going to ask for next, how are we going to play that, et cetera. Scott is incredible. Dick Botch recently fulfilled his $1 million pledge to the Botch Center for Freshwater Research and Education. As you know, we established our first endowed position a little over a year ago. We have raised $531,000 towards a $600,000 goal for our My Michigan LSSU Superior Simulation Center. For those of you that do not know, we have an incredible simulation center for our nursing majors. We have state-of-the-art simulators that can do practically everything. And Dawn, if you've seen them, they're kind of scary, as a matter of fact. And over the last few years, we have raised over $19 million in federal and state grants. Next, in July, we established the College of Great Lakes Ecology and Education with Dr. Ashley Murky named as the dean. The Center for Freshwater Research and Education has now been in the new building for 2 years. 2 years, that's all they've been there, it's just 2 years. I knew it would be successful. I had no idea it would be as successful as it is. Consistent with our strategic plan and leveraging the incredible success of Bart Seafree, we established the College of Great Lakes Ecology and Education. We also, and you may have seen it in the press release, we recently announced that we have received a $3.8 million Canadian dollar grant to Bart Seafree and LSSU related to oil spills in fresh water and especially ice. We are on the cutting edge related to oil spills in fresh water in the world. We plan to offer numerous new programs in the new college. One we're looking at is a graduate program in fisheries and aquatic science that would take advantage of the incredible amount of grants that we're getting in that area, and that would either be targeted maybe starting in the fall or the following fall. And then, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank the city for the riverfront boardwalk behind Seafree. Good gracious, does that look fantastic. So city commissioners, thank you. That has really made a huge difference in a beautiful area of Sault Ste. Marie. Next, as I've mentioned several times, we plan to offer an MBA program starting in August of 2024. We had a Higher Learning Commission, HLC, that's our accreditor. We had an HLC team come to campus in October to evaluate the program, and they have recommended approval of the program for a start date of August 2024. HLC has to have their body institutional actions committee approve it. We expect that to occur in either January or February. It will be an online, one course at a time cohort model, and it will include an initial focus on program management. But as we've had discussions, we will branch out from that basic MBA over time to be able to offer other specialties. One might be sports management, sports analytics, and all that's a real big deal right now. Next, in our last meeting, the Board of Trustees approved a Bachelor of Science degree in cybersecurity. The degree combines the required knowledge and practical skills of the fields of criminal justice and computer science. Next, we are working with the Department of Corrections to offer academic programs at Chippewa and Kinross Correctional Facilities. Tell you, of all the things I've been involved in higher education, and I've been doing this a long time, I've never been involved in anything that tugs at your heart quite as much as what we are looking at doing in the Department of Corrections. We visited, I didn't think they were going to let me out of the facility, but we were down there for 3 or 4 hours a couple of months ago. As you may know, the federal government made it so that Pell Grant scholarships could be used by inmates. That went into effect July 1. So we're working with that. We haven't gotten approval. We are a nose hair from getting approval to offer the programs. And the programs that we will start with will be an associate degree in health and fitness specialist and an associate degree in business with an emphasis in business fundamentals and entrepreneurship. We decided not to offer all the same programs as everybody else, and there are a few players in this in the state of Michigan. Calvin College is the most significant one. Inmates can move from one facility to another if they want to get programming in an area they're interested in. So that's a very interesting game changer. Next, have a great relationship with Kevin Kalchek, the CEO of My Michigan. We are working with My Michigan, Bay Mills Community College, and Sioux Area High School to create a healthcare pathways program to provide opportunities for education, training, and employment in healthcare. As you know, there are issues with having sufficient number of healthcare workers in the Sioux. That's an issue that my Michigan faces. We would love to increase our enrollment in nursing program. Also, Bay Mills has the opportunity to offer certain specialist degrees that don't quite fit us, and it's been a joy to work with them. Our current plan is that we would form a consortium with a detailed plan of action related to how we're going to go after this. Next, we increased our marketing staff. I'm gonna just say this. One of the things that had frustrated me in the past here is we have great academic programming and we have a story. We have a narrative to tell. And we weren't marketing it well enough, so several months ago I moved marketing under the provost. We hired a couple of new people in marketing that are on the cutting edge. A lot of the marketing in higher education now is not only the website but also social media, and we're doing that. Next, as you may have heard, we had a little fire in our engineering building. When I say little, I'm being facetious. It was a lithium battery that just blew up. A lithium battery associated with a robot that has just blown up. And if any of y'all did not know, the lithium batteries are a bit more ticklish than one may have anticipated. I get that now. If you see the video of it, it's pretty incredible. Well, anyway, that occurred on September 27. And I'm delighted to tell you that we had done all the work and had classes back in that building by November 6th. Pretty incredible. It looks like the total cost will be about $4.8 million, and it looks like our responsibility of that will simply be our deductible, which is $50,000, which is great news. Kate Bergell, head of HR, did an incredible job of working with all the companies that were involved. We're also doing a lot in student affairs programming. As the interim president and former provost, I also think it's important for students to have fun on campus, and it's partly our responsibility to provide those opportunities. So we're doing a lot to add student affairs programming, especially in the colder months. We're going to have competitions of building snow castles. Y'all can come and compete if you want. We're doing all kinds of things related to that, and we are returning Greek life to campus. We have heard far too many alums talk about their experience at Lake State, being in a sorority or fraternity and having it on campus, and so we're looking at that. We will return Greek life to campus by the fall at the latest, and maybe this spring. Next, we had a fabulous Great Lake State weekend that included an amazing, wonderful alumni awards and Hall of Fame induction ceremony where we honored 5 highly accomplished alumni. Some of those alumni were just incredible. Anita Saluja, who I had heard about ever since I got here, who started here when she was 10. I believe she graduated when she was 15. I believe she got her medical degree at University of Michigan at age 20. Well, I want to tell you, Anita Saluja is one of the most impressive human beings I've ever had the pleasure of talking to. We also had Doug Waite, was the alumnus of the year, and then Mark Vermette and Scott. Mark had the winning goal at what year? 88 for the national championship. And so when I say who are we, that's who we are. We're those individuals as well. Next, and I got just a few more things. Consistent with our strategic plan, we continue to provide cultural programs on campus that promote the Native American historical contemporary narrative. I'm really proud of what we're doing in this important area. On October 11, in this room, LSSU alum Austin Lowe's, chairman of the Sioux Tribe of Chippewa Indians, was our guest speaker for Indigenous Peoples Day. And Austin and several of the elders from the Sioux Tribe are going to be in the hockey loft with me on January 13. On October 30 in this room, we had New York Times bestselling author Angeline Bully speak to kick off Native American Heritage Month. Next, we hired a new athletic director. Now, I could talk a long time about Tory Lindley, but since he's about to talk, I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but I do want to say this. Tory brings expertise, passion, and a strong work ethic. He has infectious enthusiasm, which is a pure joy to be around. You'll hear from Tory, and I will put this pressure on you, buddy. He's a breath of fresh air, a breath of fresh air. We are working much more closely with the city. one of the things that Chairman Lucinda and the board asked me to do as interim president was to be much more involved in the community than we had been for the past few years. And frankly, of all the things I've done as interim president, it's what I most enjoyed. Now, what I'm going to tell you, you're going to say, well, duh, but nevertheless, what I've seen is that all kind of people in Sault Ste. Marie that love Lake Superior State University and love to hear about Lake Superior State University. And they want us to be successful, and we want the city to be successful. So I spoke to a city commission meeting in May. We're hosting this one. I'm speaking today. I also had the pleasure, as did Mayor Gary, to talk at the Sioux Area Chamber of Commerce State of the Community Fall Economic Luncheon. And I want to say I'm not going to do it, but I want to say something I did when I got up to speak after about 5 hours. I exaggerate, but it gone a little long. All right. I asked everybody, it was a record crowd, biggest crowd they've ever had. I asked everybody that worked at Lake Superior State University to stand up and remain standing. I then asked everybody that attended Lake Superior State University to stand up. I then asked everybody that had a family member that attended Lake Superior State University to stand up, and it was unbelievable, wasn't it, Don? About 80% of that huge room was standing up. And so if I ever had to deliver a message that talks about the importance of the interaction between Sault Ste. Marie and Lake Superior State University, I think that did it, and I was delighted that I did do it. I think I have literally accepted every invitation I've received to speak in town. So if you ask me, I'll come, so make sure you want me. And I'll end with this. LSSU is important to Sault Ste. Marie, and Sault Ste. Marie is important to LSSU, and it's essential that the president of LSSU be visible in time. Mayor Gary and commissioners, that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gillette. That's some very exciting comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tori, were you going to?
Sure.
Okay.
Dr. Gillette, thank you for that introduction. It's great to have this opportunity, and for each of you, I say thank you, and to the mayor, I appreciate this, and welcome to our campus, and it's certainly an honor to have you here in the library this evening. A number of people that Dr. Gillette spoke of have made this possible, so we thank them as well and appreciate the spirit directly toward our athletics program. Some of the things that I was asked to talk about tonight really refer specific to athletics, but the important thing to emphasize is when given this opportunity by Dr. Gillette and by Chair Lucinda, I needed to understand, and I'm only a month in, how important really athletics is to a community, how important athletics is to a university, because the firm belief set for me at least, and for the staff that I'm given the opportunity to oversee and to empower on a day-to-day basis, is everyone understanding and aligning with the concept that athletics has a really important part within the university's mission. And it's within the university's academic mission that our athletic department, under my leadership, will always be concerned with. And to that end, athletics has an important role on campus. The role that athletics serves on campus is to be that source of pride that the 1988 team brings to the entire alumni base, to the community, to the country, and to advance the brand. That's just one example. But also to create a sense of pride among alumni, to create a sense of pride among our student body, to our faculty and to our staff members to understand that that's just one source of talent on campus. Our student athletes have unique talents that they get a chance to display on television, in front of crowds at Taffy Able, on the courts at Bud Cooper Gymnasium, and other places across the state, across the region, and across the country. What else is unique on campus is that we get an opportunity to engage not only our student athletes with important academic programming and show their relationships and to capitalize on those relationships with their faculty, but we can and should always be one of the most important places, or one of the many important places, where all of our students have an opportunity for active learning. And active learning, using athletics as a vehicle, is critically important to a number of our majors. Thinking about majors like kinesiology, thinking about engineering, thinking about nursing, thinking about paramedics, thinking about fire science, where can the athletic department provide opportunities for active student learning should always be a part of our mission, and it certainly will be. So the campus connection is really undeniable. Secondly, I want to talk about the emphasis that we will always put on the student-athlete experience. And what that really means, probably stated from the top, is for me just to describe that student-athlete that we have here at Lake Superior State that I've inherited and that our coaches are responsible for educating and leading and empowering to be great leaders moving forward in their lives when sport ends. And that's 150 recruited varsity student athletes. That's right around 50 club sport or coach club sport athletes. And among that group, there's no fewer than 42, I believe, international students. And that international group of students, as well as other ways in which our student athletes identify as diverse, really brings one of the most diverse populations to Lake Superior State. We want to be able to embrace that diversity, want to be able to help that diversity educate our student athletes, among each other, but also among not only campus, but probably most importantly in the community, because that level of diversity really comes at a significantly high level. We're also proud of the fact that among that group of student athletes, we have right around 15 former Sioux area high school students who have made their way over to Lake Superior State and who are competing as student athletes for us as well. So the student athlete experience that we need to emphasize means a lot of different things. It means their connection to academic services, their connection to well-being, having great mental health support, having great physical health support, and their opportunity to exceed expectations. And we're really proud of what they do academically, but also have the chance to connect with our community for internship opportunities and the opportunities, again, to build toward life after sport. Their experience is also really important as we think about some of the pressures that they feel. Athletics in the NCAA right now has experienced a lot of change in the last 2 or 3 years. You've seen that in the headlines. But it's also at a point where a lot of people are really trying to think about, where does athletics fit? This is a university that has demonstrated through its mixed model of Division II and Division I sports why athletics is so important to the educational experience of our student athletes, and why it's so important in the community, and why it's so important to a university like ours. And so I'm really proud of the model that you all have created that, again, from a department standpoint, I've been able to inherit and look forward to leading it into the future, because it truly shows the importance of athletics to a young person who may not have gone to college, but a young person who probably strives to a higher academic level and maybe is retained at a higher level than some of our students on campus. And so really proud of what the student athletes have shown me so far in 33 days, and really look forward to putting them in the best positions to succeed and to compete for championships, which is what everybody certainly wants from an athletic success standpoint. But their individual experience will always be fundamental to what we do. And then finally, we have a really important pillar in our community, that athletics must mesh as well as it possibly can in the community. It must do so in a way that we create partnerships, not partnerships that just put a sign up on the dasher board in the hockey arena for a business in town. That's important, that we can share exposure. But a true partnership that demonstrates what a business in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan can do with a university and with a department to have reciprocating benefits. So how can our coaches develop with the staff that we're partnering with? How can they show up for events? How can they develop leadership? How can they connect? How can our student athletes do the same thing as our community heroes? How can the partnership develop internship opportunities, going back to that point, for our student athletes? So, how can we work together is really what we want to develop in a more organized way, in a way that really does a lot more than just become transactional, because one of the things that drew me to this position was the uniqueness of a community like this that has embraced college athletics, and college athletics at the highest levels that our hockey team competes, but at the really high levels in the GLIAC, that all of our student athletes compete. So I look forward to, partnering with many of you to have further connection points because, really developing that community base of support will always be critically important to our success. And then, my final, connection point to the community is to say to anyone in the audience and certainly to the commission that our student athletes and our coaches are always interested in investing and giving back in the community. So if there are ways that we can point them in the direction of community support and community service in our schools, certainly around Sault Ste. Marie, we're open to those opportunities and can certainly be reached quite easily through email and look forward again to getting to know those people in the community that are first and foremost for this university, but certainly supportive of our athletics department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tori. Great comments. Any questions for Tori or Dr. Gillette from the commission?
Yes, Steve.
Habusta.
The answer is yes, Alabama, not Florida State.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief comment. I've often said a thriving Sault Ste. Marie means a thriving LSSU, and the same is true. A thriving LSSU means a thriving Sault Ste. Marie. As you look around this table up here today, we have alumni, employees, past employees, parents of enrolled students, and spouses of employees. Our partnership is deeply important. And so I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow and expand this partnership between the city and LSSU. And I appreciate your presence here today and your service to the university. And thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Again, thanks for the invite to LSSU, and certainly we support you, and your success is critical to this community, so anything we can do, certainly reach out.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thanks for your service. All right, so we will move from into F Communications, number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next are representatives from JKL PSA regarding an event coming up. And I don't know if Commissioner Rosses Rath wants to kind of further intro this at all. No?
Please welcome DIBS committee. We've got Casey going to give a little bit of a side note and an invitation, personal invitation to an event that we are having at JKL Bawating PSA.
Welcome.
Ani Casey Nijnikas, Bawating and Jojaba, Mukwin and Dodo. Hi, my name is Casey Corbier. I'm a 6th grade student at JKL Bawating Anishinaabe Moen School, and I live in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I'm in an after-school program called DIBS, which stands for Diversity, Inclusion, and Balance. This group was created to give us a safe, tech-free space to come together and feel accepted. DIBS students are from diverse and multicultural identities and backgrounds and demonstrate a commitment to issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. DIBS was given the opportunity to plan and host an event at JKL School featuring an episode from the PBS show Native America called Language is Life. We are excited to showcase the importance of preserving language and culture within our community. Language is more than just a way to communicate. People rely on language to connect to their culture and pass down histories, traditions, and songs. We received a grant from PBS and partnered with the Michigan Learning Channel. Our group is doing all the planning and organizing, and we are really excited to not only have our JKL friends and families attend, but invite our tribal and local community members to attend as well. This is a free event. It's on Wednesday, December 13th at JKL Bawating School. Dinner starts at 5 p.m. and the screening of the PBS episode will begin in the big gym at 5:45 p.m. The event flyer has a QR code to RSVP and also a number to leave a message. We have the information posted on our website and Facebook site with links to RSVP. We would really appreciate your support in your attendance, but in your help spreading the word. Just as our group promotes inclusivity, all are welcome. We appreciate your time allowing us to come here tonight. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Any questions? Commissioner Bosbus-Rath.
Great job, honey. I will tell you, for those of you that don't know, these kids are absolutely phenomenal. They've been meeting the last probably 2 weeks in the mornings. Miss Angela is their group leader, and these kids have been working super hard and putting a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. So if you would like something to do on a Wednesday night, come on out to JKL Bawating. Casey, quick question. So are we allowed to share this information with our friends and family?
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great job. All right, thank you. All right, so move on into F, Communications, number 3, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next is Marilyn Clark with Headwaters North. If you want to start heading on up, Marilyn. The commission will call Marilyn Clark is kind of serving as the interim CEO for Headwaters North, which is the new entity that's overseeing the Smart Zone. We got some good things going on, and Marilyn just wants to take a few minutes, just give you guys some updates on some of the work we're doing.
Welcome, Marilyn.
Hit the head with the sonic waves coming out
Okay,
its mouth.
great. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm setting a timer, so I have 10 minutes, all right? My name is Marilyn Clark, and I'm a Youper. I do want to congratulate Dr. Gillette. I think he looks younger than the last time I saw him, so the job must really... So my background is I'm from the Western UP, and for 7 years I ran the Smart Zone in Houghton, and was asked to work with the city of Sault Ste. Marie to extend your Smart Zone, because you do have a Smart Zone, it's been in operation for 15 years, to apply for a grant for 5 more years of operation. The main outcome of the first 15 years is a building that is fully paid for as of April this year. In the role, I was really asked to put together how you move forward with a 5-year extension. The first thing that we worked on was governance, okay? Making sure that the LDFA was in compliance with the state statute, number one. Putting together a not-for-profit that would create an operating agreement with the LDFA to complete the mission of the Smart Zone and create a board to make that happen. Let me back up for a minute and talk about what a Smart Zone is. The state of Michigan in the early 2000s, Governor Snyder and Governor Granholm worked together to put money that the state got from the tobacco settlement into creating something called a Smart Zone. They didn't really know what that looked like, but what they did say is that communities who had a university had the opportunity to work with that university, taking those very smart people and that research that often sits on the shelf and commercializing that into companies that help create wealth in the communities. They were thinking at the time that Michigan was too dependent on the auto industry and we needed to diversify. The first 10 Smart Zones, one of which was in Houghton, were issued in 2002 and 2003. Today, there are 20 all across the state, and there are 3 in the Upper Peninsula, one associated with Michigan Tech, one associated with Northern, and one associated with Lake State. So Lake State is a real driver, as we've already seen in the community, and it's also an asset to start looking at building those people who have ideas that want to change the world. Usually they're more interested in changing the world than making money, but we like them to make money too. The Smart Zone is a Michigan brand that means a high-tech business incubator, all right? So the first thing we did was set up the governance body to comply with the state statute, and that is done. The second thing that we did was to look for funding, to increase the funding. One of the partners we had in this process is a guy named Scott McGinnis. He's probably the expert in the state. I am going to say he's a marvel at figuring out how to create a TIF district to maximize the opportunity for funding for the Smart Zone. We then put together a strategy on looking at programs that develop the talent of people who want to start companies. And we wrote that up in a proposal. That proposal goes to the MEDC to be approved. We're asking for a 50% tax capture, which is higher than what is in the statute, so we're kind of hoping on that we get that. I'm going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes, but also one of the things that I worked on while I was in your wonderful community was a grant application with Chippewa County. And you may have seen the announcement. Michigan has, through ARPA, $75 million that they want to expand the Smart Zone concept on encouraging entrepreneurship, not only in the high-tech area, but now further down to small businesses. So Chippewa County is working with Lewis County and Mackinac County and both tribes to expand this concept, and Headwaters North will be the organization that will execute, working with entrepreneurs to make sure they're more successful. In my opinion, the major issue for a Smart Zone is people development, talent. You need talent in order to start a company to be successful, and you need talent to be hired and make money for the company and for the community in terms of wealth. So we only got a third of what we asked for. We got $1 million to be able to hire people to work with small businesses in these 3 counties and 2 tribes. But we also got $426,000 to apply to grants for small businesses to help grow their sales, to grow their employees, and to become much more effective in their business application. So we do have some funding that we're going to move forward. The status of the proposal for the next 5-year extension is really positive. It's been approved by the MEDC as of this minute, and I'm going to drive down to Lansing tomorrow because Fred Moeller, who is the Vice President of Entrepreneurial Services at the MEDC, is walking it up to Treasury, and Treasury has to approve it. So if we get that, then what will happen is, rather than me as a consultant, we will be looking for a talented person with a lot of drive who understands how to develop business entrepreneurs to make them successful, hire that person to take the lead on that. I do want to say that I want to give Brian Chapman and Don Gary a lot of credit, that they have really worked to create the governance around what we need in terms of the Smart Zone. I'm really excited about the town and gown barriers that are breaking down, because we really need that in terms of creating wealth in this community. The last thing I'm going to say is that I have seen this work in Houghton. Houghton, when I graduated from high school, was pretty dire. The last of the mines had closed, and there was it was pretty dire. I saw a picture of the waterfront when I graduated from high school, and I said, "Oh my gosh, Janet, I told my sister, no wonder we left. Look at the waterfront. It was just filled with logs and whatever." And as most of the cities in the UP, now we realize what an asset it is. The Smart Zone was instrumental in Houghton County being the only county in the UP that grew in the last census. We have companies that have hired 100 engineers that work in Houghton, and that's only one of them. And this can also happen in your community with the fine technical university that you have. And I'm hoping that in terms of your community, that you put your arm on the wheel and help support the Smart Zone, because it is an asset for the community and for your kids who you want to keep here. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and if there are any questions.
Thank you, Marilyn. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Gage.
Just a comment. Certainly, I've worked with Marilyn in my day job, and her reputation certainly precedes her in seeing what she's been able to do for Houghton. It's a tremendous get to have her, even for a short time, helping us in our community with our Smart Zone. I wish there was a way we could convince you to get out of retirement and take that position and help us a little bit longer, but I really appreciate having you while we have you, and thank you for all you did.
I'd have to age backwards, just like Dr. Gillette did.
There you go.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks for your comments, Marilyn. I think when you talk about somebody with a lot of drive, you are that person. And I think Brian and I have probably sat in 100 meetings with you, and you've been dragging us along like a puppy dog, I think. So you certainly are the driver, and we appreciate all the help. You've brought the organization back to life, and we've got $1.4 million now that we didn't have before. We hopefully have our 5-year renewal, and great things will happen. We appreciate the partnership with Lake Superior State University. We couldn't do it without Lake State, and we have a couple people from Lake State on the board, and we appreciate their participation, and thank you very much. It's very, very exciting. It's something Sault Ste. Marie should have done 10 years ago, and we're thankful that we're getting to it now, and it'll really help entrepreneurism and high tech and low tech and every tech businesses start up now. So thanks for everything you do, and thank you for, did you sign your contract? Yeah. Well, we approved an extension at the last meeting, so here we go. So thanks, Marilyn. Moving along to business items. We'll go to number 1, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is kind of the final step with the splash pad. As the commission is aware, we had a group of volunteers that were leading the development of the splash pad. Part of that process, as a final step, is the commission's full acceptance of the splash pad, to which it will become a city asset with us. I know Commissioner Boost has got a few words he wants to say, but definitely want to give a thank out to Debbie Jones, Amanda Tonight, Lisa Young, Director Tews, Director Masterson, and Director Perrin for all their work on it. Ms. Jones, Tonight, and Young were the ones that really kind of spearheaded this and pushed this forward, so certainly wanted to thank them for it. But other than that, we look for motion to accept it, and any other commissioner comments or questions there may be.
Commissioners, Commissioner Habusta, you had some comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Manager Chapman. I'm going to remove my commissioner hat for a moment to present this gift of the Sioux Splash Pad on behalf of the Chippewa County Community Foundation to this commission. Mark, all joking aside, I've been talking about having this meeting on the other side of campus at Taffy Able. I have a slideshow with some great pictures of the splash pad, which I may not have as comfortable seats, but I do have a Taffytron, so it would have been nice to put them up there. Maybe intermission this week. The splash pad really is a community gift to Sault Ste. Marie, and it's a gift that really began out of the dream of a group of moms who wanted a place where all kids could come and play. And 3 of those 4 moms are here today. I'm going to ask that they stand up, please. Lisa Young, Tiffany Esrich, Amanda Tonight, and Michelle Callahan. Can you all stand up, or if you have a sleeping child on you, just wave. These women formed a committee and then formed a partnership with the Chippewa County Community Foundation. But it wasn't just their dream. It wasn't just the dreams of moms. It was the hope of their children, children who are here tonight as well, children who enjoyed splash pads in other communities and now hope to have a splash pad of their own, children who understand the joy and excitement that comes with running through a sprinkler or cooling down under a waterfall on a hot day. And some of those children are here today. And so I'd just like to recognize those children as well. Can you guys stand up, the ones of you that are awake still? Can you stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you, guys. And it was because of these children and their hope and these women and their dream that entire community bought in. With no financial support from government funding, these moms went to work to raise the money that needed to see this dream and their children's hope become a reality. And our community responded in the most generous way possible. Over the course of their efforts, and with the help of former Chippewa County Community Foundation Executive Director Debbie Jones and former DDA Director Justin Nepper, this group would raise almost $200,000. Most of those gifts coming in the form of under $50 gifts from our community, and raised in things like canned returns, raffles, and events. In fact, the local crowdfunding patronicity program would raise over $61,000 for this important project. With funding secured, this group would move forward in a partnership with the city and with support by people like Directors Masterson, Perrin, and Tews, and would go on to receive support from many, many local businesses in the form of in-kind work. Notably, Austin Dernberger from Kokosing Alberici Trailer would step up and act as general contractor for this project. With his army of employees and other local contractors stepping up to serve the community, the hopes and dreams of many would become a reality. And despite shipping delays, despite acts of vandalism, this fall, the splash pad was able to open to the joy and delight of young children. The hopes and dreams of many would become a reality in leaving a lasting impact for future generations. This fall, if you hadn't had the opportunity to stop by, I hope you will in the spring when it reopens, for the joy, the giggle, and the laughter of young people. It was a sight that you won't soon forget, and it's all the result of 4 women having a dream, a generous community, and a willingness to leave an impact for generations to come. And I do want to share this. The impact left on this placemaking project is more than just an impact on children. It's an impact on their whole community. Placemaking projects like the Splash Pad promote things like building community wealth. Through positive impact on local businesses, it contributes to local tourism, it boosts the Sioux's reputation as a family-friendly destination, it improves overall livability, and it enhances community pride. But not only that, it creates a community of belonging. As we just heard about inclusivity, a splash pad creates an inclusive gathering place, one where all sorts of children of all abilities can come and play. As educational value, it promotes social inclusion and community development. It provides more recreational access to underserved populations, and it promotes healthy lifestyles. These women and their vision and their kids' hope produce something in our community that everyone in our community can enjoy. As the Chippewa County Community Foundation turns this gift over to the city, we truly hope that it is something that will truly benefit each resident here in Sault Ste. Marie and beyond. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. And do you have a statement as far as participation in the vote?
Yes, I will not be participating in the vote. I will be abstaining as the Executive Director of the Chippewa County Community Foundation.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Rubenstein.
I would just like to echo Commissioner Habusta, and I wish there was better words to say than thank you, but the effort that everyone involved with the splash pad put in was absolutely incredible. I was at 7 a.m. meetings that you each showed up to ask for funding, and it was truly amazing, and watching our kids play in the splash pad when it opened was awesome. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Anybody else? So we're looking for a motion to accept the splash pad donation. Open it up to the commission. Who would like to make that? Commissioner Gage, down at the very end of the red line.
So move that we accept the donation of the splash pad from the Chippewa Community Foundation.
Support.
Moved and supported. Been moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thanks. Very good. Great job. Thank you. Moving on into G, business items number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the city and the local police command unit. As the commission is aware, the original CBA expired June 30th, 2023. The process of negotiation is kind of hammered out here in the details within the agenda item. You can see all the variety of contract changes. There's been some minor language changes to the contract, mostly grammatical type of things. Increased callback 3 hours, a little bit of change in some insurance coverage. Kind of the meat of the potatoes is it's a 3-year contract with no wage openers, with a 5% wage increase effective June 25th, 2023, 4% 2024, and 4% 2025. So we would look for a motion to approve the CBA as presented, as well as a motion to amend the budget in the police department by $10,400 in the 23-24 fiscal year.
Thank you very much, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Bauer.
What is section 910?
Great question. Section 9.10, I believe, was in reference to the process in which an officer under this contract, if they were accused of some type of complaint from either a citizen or a potential criminal, there was a process out there that wasn't necessarily in line with state and federal laws and current practices. So we had the unit remove that from the contract. That was a city ask.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? So we would need 2 separate motions. One to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the police command unit effective June 25th, 2023, and as presented. And the second would be a motion to amend the budget upward in the police department by $10,400 in the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Mr. Bauer.
So moved that we approve the collective bargaining agreement with the police command unit effective June 25th, 2023, as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments on the floor? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Bauer.
So moved that we amend the budget upward in the police department by $10,400 in the 2023-24 fiscal year.
Support.
Has been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion also passed unanimously. Thank you. Under G, business items, number 3, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is approval of an MDOT contract 23-5448 for the Safe Routes to School project. This item has 2 motions associated with it. Motion to approve the resolution authorizing the manager to sign the contract, and a motion to create a budget with the revised sources and uses as attached. So this is kind of the next step with the Safe Routes to School project. Just as a side note, the bids did come back last Friday of last week. They were a little bit over, but we'll be able to do most of the work that we originally stated that we would do. So a lot of ADA compliant ramps, some closing of the networks throughout the sidewalks around Lincoln and Malcolm, right? Lincoln and Malcolm schools. So with this, it'll kind of kick off the project. The work is anticipated to be done during the construction season in 2024. And with that, like I said, we look for both motions to be approved.
Thank you, City Manager. Can you define a little over?
I can.
Significantly, what will get cut?
Dave, why don't you come on up here and hop on the mic? There's some work, as Dave's coming up here, the project is over budget, but there's some work that we will retool to do in-house within the water department, so there will be a cost savings there. And I'll hand it over to Dave.
Okay. So
Welcome, Dave.
Okay, came in 12% over, not the 80% that we've been seeing.
Which is
Okay.
pretty
Yeah.
good for us.
Not bad.
Pretty good for us, yep. So it's about $90,000, but we have moving 3 hydrants that we can cover 50, or get rid of about 58,000, and then it gets us down to about 40,000, which we have some other ideas and some other money that we can tap into, so we're right there.
Yep.
All right, any questions for city manager or city engineer? Guess you wowed everybody. Commissioner Marble, would you like to make the motions?
Motion to approve resolution authorizing the city manager to sign MDOT contract number 235448 for the Safe Routes to School Projects numbers 0574.
Is there support?
Support.
So it has been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Marble, second motion.
Motion to create a budget with the reserve source and uses as attached for project number 0574 with city contributing $122 to come from the Capitals Project Fund.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Under item G, business items, number 4. Or did I miss something?
No, Dave's just saying.
Oh.
For the next one. No.
Okay. On the chair with wheels.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is approval of the sources and uses sheet for the Carbide Dock Easter Day route project. Kind of in a nutshell, we have outlined the sources and uses, the expenditures and revenues on the attached sheet for the commission so they can see kind of where the money's coming from and where the money's going. Within this action, there is the removal of a lot of grants that we already applied for that we were denied, kind of updating some of those numbers. There's still a handful of grants out there that we are either anticipating award or still in the process to see if we're going to be awarded or denied. So for this particular item, the biggest thing is really allocating the ARPA funds that the city received for this project. We kind of talked about it in the past to help fill the gap, but this will just kind of cement it in for the guideline or the deadline end of this calendar year. Yeah, at the end of this calendar year. So again, just kind of updating the sources and uses for the commission. We look for a motion to approve the sources and uses as presented.
Thanks, city manager. Any questions for the city manager or city engineer? Pretty complex project. I think we've talked about this an awful lot, and this is interesting, and it is the front yard of your Sea-Free project too, so we're happy to be able to do this at this meeting. So who would like to make the motion? Any hands down there? Commissioner Rubenstein.
Motion to amend the budget for the Carbide Dock Easter Day truck route project, cut expenditures and update grant revenue per revised source and use.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks, city engineer. All right, moving on into item H. Didn't see anything in there. Do you have any city manager updates, or should we skip it?
No, just a couple. Just a
City
couple
manager.
20-minute long updates for you all. Just real quick, just want to send out a reminder to the community. We do have our water tower painting initiative that's on our Facebook. Due dates for submissions are December 15th. If there's any questions, reach out to Director Tews within the Water Department. His contact information is on the website. As we're moving through December, just to give the commission a heads up, I will be out of the office December 25th through the 29th. And then just as a reminder to the commission for planning purposes, the first meeting in January is not on Monday. It will be on Tuesday, January 2nd. So just as a reminder, because January 1st is New Year's Day, that's a holiday. The meeting has been moved to January 2nd.
Thanks, City Manager. Anybody have any questions, comments for City Manager on any of his update or any other items? Seeing none, we'll move it along. Item I is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? If so, please come up to the podium. Anybody? Scott Smith would like to compliment you on your attire. Thank you for...
I'm a wildcat at heart, though, sorry.
Yeah. Funny story, when we looked at hiring a new city manager, we went down to do an interview in his community. And we thought we had the right guy because he still hung on to his 906 area code cell phone. But we did drive by in his house, and he did have a Wildcat flag out there. We hired him anyway. At least it was a Youper. So anybody in the public that has any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on into item J, which is matters presented by the City Commission. Commissioners, Commissioner Rubenstein.
Just a special thank you, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the initial idea for the meeting here today came from Chamber of Commerce Director Tony Haller. Is that correct? So thank you, Tony, for that. I don't think he's here tonight. And then thank you to LSSU and city staff for making this happen. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else have any comments? Commissioner Bauer.
City manager needs to learn to quit while he's ahead. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, I know.
And with that glorious comment, Commissioner Bauer.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Moved and supported. We adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Did you see my internet finally came on?
Did they learn their accounting, though?